I started my first business using my computer at home with a DVD writer to copy video games and sell them to students at school. So with a few friends of mine, I said I'll do electric bicycles that deliver for beer wholesalers to homes because shops were closed, but you could deliver from a depot.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the podcast on Uganda, segment on sectors, where we bring you captains of industries, CEOs, founders to tell us exactly what's fueling the wheels of Uganda's economy. Today we are in luck. We have a very rare founder, Geoffrey Mutabazi, who has been in this ecosystem for a while. He is the founder of Kaara, and he's going to be telling us everything about how this alternative transport system can also contribute to Uganda's economy. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling refreshed.
When
I rode here.
An electric bike, and then he left it right at the entrance of our building. So we thought if it goes missing after this hour, we'll go down in history. No, he lost his bike on my showgrounds. But tell us, how did you end up where you are today?
I've always been a person who loves to solve problems. Growing up, I was always really interested in tech. I was really interested in business to some extent. I think I got my first computer when I was 12 or 13, so I just finished primary 7. And I remember for an entire year, the first word my dad would hear before good morning was, I need a computer. Let's get a computer. So I was always really a techie person. I was always persistent, I guess. So when I left primary school, I joined secondary school and I was studying in Kaara College school. I used to love video games. So I started my first business using my computer at home with a DVD writer to copy video games and sell them to students at school. Then after school, I would go to town in my shorts, and Kaara College school, I would go to town in my shorts and sell then the same video games and a few softwares to businesses in town. And I'd get home at PM after school, and I would go back to school. And that's the first business I did. So I was always within tech. But when I got to university, I never felt the need to study an IT related course. Mainly because I failed sciences. But secondly, because I would have gone for IT or something. I felt like I already knew enough and I could teach myself. I come from a background where my dad never let you stay idle. Vacation. In primary 7, he took me to YMCA to study like computer. So I studied like all the computer packages, Microsoft Word, database, Excel, all these things. In senior 4 vacation, even before I finished my UCE exams, I was already applying to Kaara University to do a course on graphics and image editing. So I learned how to design magazines, use Photoshop, Illustrator, design books, posters, all of this stuff. I remember the guy teaching us was editor for Flair magazine in New Vision or Daily Monitor. So in my senior 6 vacation, I did a course on computer networking, CCNA. I didn't finish that course. I dropped out of one course. But essentially when I got to university, I felt like I'd been doing all these computer related things in my vacations. I didn't feel the need to go deeper into it because I knew I could teach myself. So I opted for a business course. I went to MOOBS for, I think, Bachelor's of Office and Information Management. I did a year there and I felt it was a very useless course. I felt the learning style in university was not updated. I called my dad, it was Father's Day. I called my dad, I'm like, dude, I'm not going back.
Okay. I see where this is leading us, and it's leading us nicely into what you're doing today. Your curiosity, very persistent attitude of figuring out computer and design is now helping you build functional energy and mobility products from Africa.
Yeah.
And this leads us to Kaara. I remember seeing you back in the day at the design house.
Yes.
You guys used to have a store there. You've been persistent with that. So tell us about how Kaara ended up becoming Kaara. What was the landscape like then opposed to today?
When I left MOBS, I went to Eastbat University.
Okay.
And at Eastbat University, I opted for BBA, Bachelor's in Business Administration.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was in a lecture. I was that talkative kid in class. I learned more through stories and interactions than through reading books.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Rumi or Nakumatt closing, one of the large supermarket chains.
Yeah.
I asked myself, supermarkets keep closing. I don't think the supermarket business is aligned with the Ugandan landscape. The bulk of homes and shoppers rely on small dukas.
Kiosks.
The kiosks in your neighborhood. So I came up with an idea. If I could upscale these dukas or kiosks, which are usually family-owned, family-run, or neighborhood-ish shops. The structure of those shops is the front is a shop, the back is the house where this person stays.
Yes.
Or it's the one room, but they put a curtain and it separates. Yeah. So I thought front could be the shop, and the back could be a logistics point where you can then deliver. Because the challenge with a lot of this is that you have only the people who can walk to you. You don't have a large delivery or service area. Yeah. So I thought maybe I could organize small shops, but then make them more organized, blah, 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 and then do a chain so that they benefit from economies of scale. So if you're buying sugar, you're buying, let's say, a ton of sugar, and then you're distributing it amongst the shops, so your cost per kilo is lower because you're able to negotiate with suppliers. I thought the bicycles would be used to deliver for these shops. That's how the bicycles actually come into play. Yeah. When I did research on this idea, I found that the shops were complicated. There's relational issues. People buy from people. If you buy the shop, it becomes more of a business-ish relationship, and you don't have the same relation of, oh, this person's home, I know them, they'll pay when they get money. Yeah. It becomes less relational. So I said, maybe I could do bicycles. COVID rolls up. By then I was running a phone charging business. I had been thinking about eMobility as a transition from phone charging to electric vehicle charging. Yeah. But there were no electric vehicles to charge by then. So I decided, okay, maybe I could look into eMobility. Yeah. And then Uganda Breweries runs a hackathon in Muyenga. And they were giving out 10 million shillings to whoever comes up with an idea to help them make money during the COVID pandemic. Yes. So with a few friends of mine, I said, I'll do electric bicycles that deliver for beer wholesalers. Yeah. To homes because shops were closed, but you could deliver from a depot directly to a home with a bicycle because motorcycles were not allowed.
Not even cars.
Exactly. So that's how the idea comes up. I was working on the bicycle side. Yeah. There was another section of the team that was working on the marketing and another on operations. Okay. So we came up as 3 entities, me, another group, and another group. We came up with an idea called Loco, which was localized delivery using bicycles. Yeah. That's how Kaara came up. By the time I pitched that, I had never even ridden an electric bicycle.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was in the ecosystem then that you thought, okay, we can do this? What was the landscape like?
Man, by then, I think there was only Kira Motors, and then there was a company called Zembo. Yeah. By then, I met Daniel, and they had 20 bikes. Yeah. Only. This was like in the pandemic. Then GoGo Electric by then was in the ecosystem also. Had an electric motorcycle, but they were doing agriculture, like hand tillers, electric wheelchairs, batteries, lithium batteries for backup. They were doing a lot of different things. So there was just, I think, 2 or 3 major players in Uganda. And then in Kenya, the major player was a company called Opibus, which is now Rome Motors. I did a whole landscape of the industry. I did a plan. And I said, okay, let me get into this eMobility business. That's how Kaara comes up.
Your focus was smart deliveries.
My focus was deliveries using electric bicycles.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have money to buy new electric bicycles, we decided conversion of existing bicycles would actually be a better.
We already have a lot of bicycles.
There's a lot of bicycles. One day before the second lockdown,
Yeah.
I bought 6 bicycles. And if I bought them one day later, they would have been like 3-4 times the price.
Yes.
I bought 6 bicycles and started trying out conversion.
Yeah.
I did that in my spare bedroom.
Explain that conversion. You're such a techie guy. Explain in lemon what you were doing.
So front wheel with a motor, then a battery. We got a front wheel,
yeah,
that already had like a motor inbuilt. Or we brought in a battery, installed it on the bicycle.
Yeah.
Battery, motor, and the bike is electric.
Yeah.
So that's what we do for bicycles.
From scratch?
No, we didn't design it from scratch. We got an existing solution. And because at the time, there were already existing solutions for conversion, only that a lot of them were too complicated, so we found the simplest. Made it even simpler over time.
Yeah.
So what we did is that when we built this, we were really focusing on how can we do it in a simple and quick way.
Yes.
Because I wasn't very technical, I hadn't studied engineering, so I couldn't do the wiring and complicated things.
Yes.
And that's where the simplicity in the business actually came in. Because usually when you're an engineer, you complicate things.
Yeah.
You start wanting your own thing. In many cases, it's just a battery, a motor, and that's it. So that's how we start conversions.
Yeah.
I did the first conversion. The second conversion, I started to bring in spares only. Not full conversion kits, and then put them on bicycles.
Yes.
Eventually, I started this as my own little project in my spare bedroom. We wanted to do deliveries. We partnered with a restaurant called Krusty's. We tried it out. It just wasn't working well enough.
Yeah.
Then I paused the business. Guess what happens?
What happened?
Fuel prices went up. And a friend of mine who was in that hackathon with UBL was a judge working for Jumia. So he calls me and tells me, dude, you're working on this bicycle thing. Whatever happened? You know, our delivery prices are going up, fuel prices are going up, you know, it's affecting our business. Would you want to try it out? That's how we get into delivery, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We start doing deliveries for Jumia. We put two or so electric bicycles in there, and that's how we started. Yeah. And by then we'd started using new bicycles because the second-hand bicycles were too unpredictable.
And you spent, what do you mean unpredictable?
When you buy a second-hand bicycle, the first 1 to 2 months is figuring out what problems it actually has and fixing them, because you buy it in an unknown state. You don't know what the previous user was using it for. You don't know the state of the part. So you're doing a lot of repairs in the first few months, which is not the ideal. They're also not very standardized. So you'd find one that has this part, the other one has this part. Finding spares for one or the other is very complicated. So we just started to opt for, which is what we're doing now.
No, that's exciting. From our childhood, Kaara means electricity. Is that where the name comes from? That's how the name comes.
We're adding Kaara to bicycles.
Yes, Kaara.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting now that you give us that background, which makes a lot of sense from you as the entrepreneur, very curious to figure things out, then converting the batteries. And now we're here today, part of the ecosystem of eMobility. Yeah. I wonder, from where you see, what are the trends you're taking note of in the ecosystem?
I'll give you 2 perspectives. So Uganda, we're seeing a lot of conversion businesses. So in Uganda, there's Kaara Motors doing electric bus manufacturing. Gogo Electric is converting existing motorcycles to electric. Zembo is converting Simba motorcycles to electric, also just doing conversions. We also have, I think, Spyro, which is really doing a full solution. They design their own bikes, bring in, the parts, do the assembly, and all of that. And then in multiple countries, they're much bigger companies. So that's a bit of balance of a bit of international, a bit of local. But really, if you look at the Kenyan ecosystem, Kenyan ecosystem is more diverse.
Okay.
There are companies focusing on services, providing electric motorcycles for Uber and Bolt delivery riders or border, and that's it. Like, that's the bulk of the market. Yes, they sell to border riders, but the bulk of their business is in these fleets. You have some companies that are just focusing on technology for swapping or technology for charging. You have some companies that are really just focusing on assembly operations. You have companies focusing on batteries like eMobility, which is focusing on charging infrastructure, to Arkride, which is really doing a lot more on swap stations and delivery fleets. You have companies like, you have electric bicycle companies, a lot more electric bicycle companies in Kenya, in Uganda. So you have about 2 or 3, there are about 3 electric bicycle companies, including EB, Iwaka, and e-bikes for Africa. Yeah. You have more diversity in Kenya. Yeah. It's a lot better funded. These companies find they cannot compete in the larger leagues. They carve out their niche, while some companies go full stack, doing everything from start to finish, while some focus on a small segment. Uganda is a more resilient ecosystem, because if you look at the amount of funding Ugandan startups in the e-mobility space have raised versus the number of motorcycles or electric mobility assets on the road, you see a big difference.
Isn't it related to the percentage of electricity coverage?
Almost no one is putting bicycles in rural areas. Sorry, motorcycles or e-mobility assets in rural areas. Almost everyone is focusing on urban areas. Even companies expanding their electric motorcycle fleets into rural areas. Yeah. You have a lot of companies going for places like Mbarara, Masaka, places like Gulu, because they're focusing more in the urban areas, like the cities. And they're putting swap stations, electric motorcycles, electric bicycles, electric buses in some cases, but it's really still in the urban areas. Yeah. So electricity coverage is one thing, but I think where Kaara is playing, we're electricity access agnostic. Like, we've gone into even value chains like dairy, where you're operating in a place where the nearest electricity line ends like 20 or 30 kilometers.
So how
and you
does
go
it last?
off grid.
Yeah.
In dairy areas, you have people delivering milk from farms that are far, maybe 10, 15, 20 kilometers, bring it to a milk collection center that's in a small town. That town doesn't have, but the milk collection center has a generator or a solar system. In many cases, they have solar because it's cheap. It's starting to have solar generators, and that ensures that when this bicycle comes to that milk collection center, they're able to charge.
Okay.
So
I was just thinking, if moving 20 kilometers, does it last you that long?
Oh, our bicycle can last up to 120 kilometers. So I've personally ridden to Ginger on one charge. I had 80 kilometers and I still had about 30% electricity left.
So it sounds exciting with the trends you spoke of in Kenya and the possibilities for Uganda. Where do you see the opportunities? If there's an investor listening right now, an innovator like yourself, a young person looking to get into the workforce, where are the opportunities that we should be focused on to contribute to the economy?
eMobility should be thinking about the 99% too. If you build for people within Kampala, that's a very small market. Yeah. If you build for the entire Uganda and focus on rural, it's a lot more complicated.
But people prefer to walk.
But I think eMobility can work in more ways than one. It doesn't have to be a motorcycle. It could be cold chain tracks, or the whole of Uganda. 70% of the population relies on agriculture. It's the largest employer. The second largest employer is the border economy. So why not go for the largest? Yeah, it's actually the second largest employer in Uganda.
Border.
Agriculture. In many cases, the border riders also have a small farms. There's some double counting. Yeah. How does eMobility work for agriculture? And that's a very interesting field where, for example, our electric bicycles are able to carry 100 kilograms of cargo.
100 kilograms?
If you are carrying,
how many
that's
sacks?
2 sacks of coffee.
Almost
The 50 kilogram sack.
So 2 bags of that one.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah.
And in cases of, let's say, matoke, that's maybe 5 bunches, or depending on weight. For a farmer, distributing solar products in rural areas, providing extension services to farmers. There's so many applications of eMobility besides the border. The border is overserved because there's enough solutions, enough obvious solutions. Maybe how do we think about electric tractors? How do we think about electric hand tools? One of the things we are working on, and anyone can actually jump in and work on this and maybe even come and get an electric drivetrain from us, but we're thinking about how do we build an electric wheelbarrow, because the wheelbarrow is how you move feed from one part of the farm to another, how you move produce, maybe when you've harvested your cabbages, that's how you take them back to your household. There's a lot that can be done when it comes to eMobility. We're thinking about eMobility in a one-dimensional way. We are losing out on larger opportunities where Uganda can be very competitive. There's a lot of farming, a lot of it is smallholder farmers. How do we hack for the smallholder farmer and ensure that they have a solution that can make their life easier? And then lastly, eMobility is also a way to spread access to electricity. You just mentioned access to electricity is a challenge. An electric bicycle battery can also be used to charge a phone. Some lights to power your home. Imagine if you had an electric bicycle battery that can power your phone, lights, a small irrigation pump, your electric bicycle to take your products to the market and bring back farm inputs. You could use the same electric bicycle battery to power maybe a small hand tiller or a small mini tractor. And this eMobility asset doesn't have to exist in isolation. It's something that needs to mesh into the lifestyle of people. If we build with a more holistic approach and said, okay, someone should do tractors, someone should do this, and then sort of share infrastructure or share technology, and that then supports the growth of an ecosystem without just focusing on the border. What if the government wakes up in the morning and says, we're banning all the borders, then everyone is gone? We need to think outside the box. That's where Uganda can definitely play.
I like the point with agriculture. We have the potential of becoming the food basket of Africa, but we are an agro-based economy. Now that you talk about opportunities, what are the challenges impeding them to prosper?
I think access to capital is very important. You find that a lot of the capital in the innovation ecosystems is foreign. We don't have enough money in our startup ecosystems and business landscape. We need a lot more local capital because then that keeps the gains within. So if I build Kaara, maybe got it to $1 billion of revenue, high valuation, then it got bought by Tesla, it's very likely that if I've raised money from outside capital, mostly foreign investors are going to benefit the most from it. And not in a bad way. Like, capital is always looking for a home. If your local ecosystem is not investing in you, if your banks won't touch you, if your high net worth individuals are not investing in startups, then it becomes a problem, because then that gap gets filled by a foreign party that has its own interests and is interested in the return.
Someone argued on this podcast that Uganda is one of the most expensive destinations of capital. The rates alone to just invest here is so expensive that they would rather go to Kenya or go somewhere else.
The scarcity in advisory for capital providers. You don't have enough transaction advisory partners. A lot of them are actually doing more of the transaction advisory funded by donors. So it's not very commercial in nature. You don't have a lot of private equity players here. Even when you get money from like your first funders, even though they're Ugandan, you don't have a full chain of people who are going to follow on investment during your investment journey. You don't have someone who's going to take you all the way. So you're going to get some money here, move out, then come back in. So that's one thing, capital. Both equity, concessional capital like grants, a lot of the grants are foreign. We need more local grants. The government of Uganda is trying to do more by giving out some grants in yoga.
So one of my very close friends told me some of these concepts good in a PR story. Funders don't really believe they can work. Heard of that?
Nothing is perfect. I feel like a lot of businesses, a lot of the new age businesses have gotten very good at innovation, but very bad at business. So in many cases, you find this very brilliant innovator, but a very bad businessman.
Yeah.
They don't show up on time, they don't have the right financial controls, they don't think about profitability early enough, they don't have corporate governance, they don't think about like the fundamentals that a business person has to think about.
Yeah.
They think about, oh, have we got this grant? Have we got this funding? What's the valuation of the business? That's nice, but that's such a Western concept. Valuation is nice, but you cannot eat valuation. At the end of the day, when you go home and your wife is asking, did you come back with bread? No, I came back with valuation. So I think we need to stay rooted in what we're actually supposed to be doing, right? When you innovate, think about the business. And I feel like a lot of innovators don't try to strike that balance. However, one of the other things that's really lacking in the ecosystem is a system of mentorship. When you go to Silicon Valley, you'll find everyone says, oh yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is like the Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. They have people they look up to. In Africa, because we have such young ecosystems, we don't have a lot of role models. So who are the role models? Chiru Kwadala now. There's not that many relatable people that have built new age businesses and have actually exited or built strong brands that have become household names. You have a lot more mentorship coming from traditional business people. And I think because there's that gap, a lot of people, like you said, don't feel like it works. Don't feel these businesses are what they should be. They don't have something to measure against.
They're very skeptical.
So that's the second challenge. But the last challenge is the policy. The government is trying. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation has done a lot of work in supporting the e-mobility sector. But there needs to be a very good tax policy. There needs to be a lot of incentives that incentivize customers to actually take up the products. So when you look at the US, how the e-mobility sector grew in the US, if you bought a car for a manufacturer, the government would pay $7,500 to discount the price
For each?
For your first 200,000 customers. If they were buying a car at $10,000, they would pay $7,500 and you'd pay the rest. Electric bicycles, in a lot of the developed markets, governments have up to $500, $1,000, $250. If you buy an electric bicycle and you're like using it to commute, you have to fit a certain criteria. Maybe you're using it to commute, it's replacing a car, you're maybe in a certain income bracket. The government will pay half the price. They'll pay $500 and you pay the rest to the company. Or you pay and then they give you a rebate on your taxes when you're filing. But these demand side incentives are still lacking. And that really puts you in a very weird situation because the market is not pulling these products out of your hands as a company, but you're trying to push the product. Despite the fact that people, farmers, let's say if government said that, okay, for coffee farmers, if you want to buy an electric bicycle, if you have a farm of an acreage of this much and you pay 2 million less. That makes the product more adopted. So if you said, hey, Kaara, Zembo, Gogo, for your first 100,000 bikes, this incentive is there. Your customers, if they want to buy the product, they can. We will put money down to enable your customers access. Why? Because the more we win over a fossil fuel-based economy, we keep more dollars in our economy. For example, if I was getting here on a border running on fuel, I would have spent 5,000 shillings. 1,000 shillings of that would go to fuel. The border guy will keep 1,000. Then 1,000 will go to his loan company. This 1,000 shillings, his money is going out to buy fuel to then be used to run our economy.
Yeah.
The day fuel price goes up, that border rate goes to 6,000, 10K. You've seen fuel prices double in a short time. We even have a surplus of electricity. This is incentivizing consumption of electricity locally. It's saving the environment, which actually contributes heavily to our agricultural economy, because without a good, well-preserved environment, we do not have a very thriving agricultural base. Yeah. And there's a lot of benefits that the sector can bestow upon the government, directly and indirectly. It looks like we're subsidizing this industry to grow, but we're subsidizing our economy to be resilient. We're building a much more resilient, stronger Uganda. If the government did nothing else but solve the demand side, the companies would be able to do the rest.
And in terms of, you talked about adaptability, sustaining adoption of these services. You started out with converting and swapping batteries from the normal bike to convert them to electric bikes. Then that didn't work, or it was costing more than you could afford, so then you now opted for newer bikes. So what's happening with the old bikes?
Old bikes are interesting because if the old bike is within the hands of a customer, we can actually convert for them. But if you buy a bike with a perfectly good electric system and a very bad mechanical system, like the brakes are having issues, the free wheel has issues, the tires are like, you end up hating the bike not because it's bad, but it's
generally,
it's like getting a good engine, like a V8 engine, and putting it in the oldest, poorly maintained car. Even though the engine fits, the AC is bad, the suspension is falling apart, you feel every hump, the seats are uncomfortable. Good engine.
What happens to the old bikes then? Is there a solution that they're being recycled or dumped somewhere?
I mean, we already are a dumping ground for old bikes.
That's true.
More than half the bikes that come into this country are old. We have a lot of second-hand bikes coming into Uganda. I think there's a gap that could be fixed in terms of upscaling those old bikes. Over time, we maybe need to start to think through what can we do best.
Yeah. There's in cars, there's a lot of tax on older cars coming in as opposed to newer cars. Is that true?
It's an affordability challenge. A lot of old bicycles that come into Uganda cost much less than the new bicycles. Costs about 730,000 shillings. Used bicycle from Japan or from UK or wherever costs 200 or 300K. So I think to some extent, maybe controlling the quality of used bicycles so that we don't get junk would help. But I feel like even with the new bicycles have really lost a lot of quality. Back then, and the Roadmaster of now, or the Hero bicycle of now, there's two totally different. One lasts much longer. The newer ones are a lot more. I don't think I have a solution for the old bicycles.
No.
But I think it will be
so in the ecosystem.
None that I know of.
I hope we don't end up like the Netherlands, having a lot of old bicycles dumped.
Yeah, but you see, I think the Netherlands is an interesting place because even while those old bicycles are dumped, there's a lot of programs for refurbishing old bicycles.
I've seen a video of a dumping site since they have a lot of bicycles, of just old bicycles with tires and all the wheels. But anyway,
it's so sad.
It is, isn't it? So we hope that doesn't happen for Uganda.
Hopefully not.
But
I hope they're not old Kaara bikes.
No.
I hope the solution should be customer protection. Because I'll give you an example. If I buy a car or a bicycle built to last, some countries have consumer protection laws. You will not bring junk and just drop it in the country.
Yeah.
They have a quality standard. That's why Ugandans will say, oh, I want the UK version or the US version, because they know the one they make for Africa, it's the second grade, third grade. But I think consumer protection, having a certain quality score, because in many cases, if you don't have that, anyone will dump anything. In your country, you'll become a dumping ground, because that bicycle car will last 2 years and then it's going to the dumping site. If we have more durable, proper things coming in, then at least a bicycle will eventually get old, but then it's probably going to last longer, maybe 10 years. The bicycles that we currently sell, the electrified bicycles, we work with a partner called Buffalo Bicycles. They have a bicycle which has a 5-year warranty on the frame. Like if the frame ever breaks within 5 years, they'll give you a new one for free. They have the best quality tires, they have really good brakes, and they focus on, can we make this bicycle the best bicycle for value for money? When they put bicycles in a community, they train mechanics to service the bicycles and provide spare parts. With other manufacturers like Sawan Bicycle Industry, which is an Indian-owned family business, we sit down with them and really talk through, okay, if we're sourcing bicycles from you, what should the bicycle look like? What should the quality be like? We make a lot of design and product recommendations to ensure the customer gets value for money, and we're not putting junk on the road. And there are bicycles we've tested, and we wrote that, this bicycle, I don't think it's something that we want to sell.
You can tell Geoffrey is passionate about his
bicycle.
Design
design is supposed to be for longevity. There's a reason why Toyota is one of the best-selling cars. The older versions of Toyotas. You'll find an old Toyota car, like an old Land Cruiser, being sold for 2 times the price of a brand new Toyota. Why? Because those cars were built for longevity, to last. They were built for our kind of terrain, and that makes it a beloved product. That's why someone will have a Vitz or a Spacio and not let go of that. Then there's a person who will buy a brand new Sienta, and within 3 years, 5 years, it's already looking like it's been around for 15.
Built for longevity. I'm afraid we are running out of time, Geoffrey. I love your passion for bikes. Tell us about the recent excursion to Murchison Falls with Mandulis Energy. Kaara was part of it. Where do you see yourself in that conversation? That was part of the East African Carbon Markets Forum trip to the field.
I met Peter Nyeko at the East Africa Solar Investment Forum. We've always been interested in looking at how eMobility can actually work within resource limited areas that don't have access to electricity. And Peter Nyeko, who runs Mandulis Energy, is running a very interesting business where farmers in Noya district can get rice from their gardens, bring it to the rice processing facility. The husks that would ideally be thrown away are then processed into biochar that's used to generate electricity that powers the community. But the question was, how does 100 kilograms of rice get to the Mandulis Energy site? It has to get there by bicycle, motorcycle, or by someone carrying a big on their back. We pioneered electric bicycles in this community to enable that transportation of the farm produce to this site, and 100 kilograms of rice husks can power the community for about 45 minutes.
Imagine.
Which is really significant. Of course, it's a hybrid system, so they also have solar, so this is like a supplement. But it's also an easier way to store electricity. Imagine storing electricity and batteries, essentially, and that same electricity can power the electric bicycle. This is circular economy in practice, launching this product and seeing the impact on both Mandulis Energy as a business and also on the community that relies a lot on agriculture. So,
exactly what you were talking about, Stat.
So I think one of the things we're really looking to see is that as we design the next generation of what, mobility and energy access. Collaboration is very important to see that, whereas someone is innovating for, last mile access to electricity, how does their model leverage last mile or first mile mobility? How does all of that feed into a larger goal of a healthier planet, resilient economy, better livelihoods in rural areas, and putting more money in people's pockets?
Yeah.
Because that rice is going to be sold somewhere, and then you're going to have it on a plate in Kampala, or it's going to be exported and bring in foreign exchange. So I think models like this make innovations move faster. We need more collaboration as we build these businesses.
Brilliant. I'm afraid that's all the time we had apart from our last question.
Yes.
The question we ask every guest that comes onto this podcast. Are you ready? Do you know the question?
No.
What do you think it's going to take for Uganda to achieve a middle class economy by 2040? If you can relate it to eMobility, even better.
All industrial revolutions are driven by three fundamental technologies. New forms of transportation, new forms of communication. 3 is new forms of energy to power the transportation and the communication. First industrial revolution, steam engine, printing press. Second industrial revolution, that's how Britain developed. Second industrial revolution, you had Bell, the AT&T, that's the telephone companies. You had Henry Ford and the automobile, Standard Oil and the oil economy, Edison General Electric or General Electric now. All of those businesses are still existing. If we build our economy to strengthen these 3 fundamental technologies, communication, transportation, and energy to power the 2, everything else will work itself out. If you can call to order and communicate as a business, if you can transport products to the market, if you have energy to power transportation, communication, and industry affordably, sustainably, that's it. Everything else, you don't have to lift a finger. It will be like magic. And I think that's what is required. It's a very simple formula, but it works.
Yeah.
It's been proven to work.
Yeah. Thank you, Geoffrey, to see more new inventions with Kaara, and good luck with all your endeavors.